another new Terminator can only be good, right? It can only be good. If it's not, there's going to be riots in the streets. I realise this is a day late, but you know what? When I had this office built on the side of my house, I decided to put it next to the kitchen, because that's where the garage was, and using half the garage for an office seemed like an excellent idea, and it was a great idea until the kitchen needed to be replaced, and it's very hard to make videos and record things when there's the constant sound of hammering, drilling, sawing, and singing to 80s rock songs that have been going on next door for the last... I mean, it's only been 2 days, but it feels like 2 years. Anyway... apologies for the delay on this particular bit of delightful news. We had a hint of a tease, we had a little glimpse of a new Terminator Librarian in the trailer for 10th edition, and now we have the model for that, and funnily enough, it looks pretty goddamn good. Look at that lad. What an absolute... look at the girth. Look at the girth on that. I love this. I absolutely love this. Admittedly, it's not perfect to my eye, but that's because there's just some parts of the librarian side of things that I've just never been a fan of. Like, I don't really like the whole psychic hood thing, which is just a personal preference, but I will concede that the one implemented on this guy does look pretty damn cool. I'm not sure about the glowing orb nipples on the chest plate, but you know what? You can't have it all. Or, well, apparently, according to this guy's chest, you can if you want. The armour of course looks excellent because this guy's a Terminator, and Terminators are class and the best models, and so how could it possibly look bad? But I will say, the extra carvings, the little symbols, the lines that have been carved into the greaves and into the chest, across the pauldrons, oh, it's so tasty. It's so good. It's been a while since I looked at the previous Terminator Librarian, but I'm pretty sure it did not have all of those symbols carved into the armour itself. That is an excellent and lovely touch on this lad, and it's extremely, extremely reminiscent of Wordbearer's armour, which I like that a lot. I mean, let's be honest, the thing that Lorgar wrote as a bit of propaganda for why the Emperor is in fact a god has become the basis of the entire religion that the Imperium rests on. The fact that a librarian, a loyalist librarian amongst the modern Space Marines has symbols and stuff that are not that dissimilar to what you'd find on Heresy era word bearers. That's just class. That's just class. I like it a lot. I don't think it's exactly the same, but it is reminiscent, and that's enough for me. He is perhaps going a little too heavy on the skulls. The skulls is maybe going a bit too far. We've got a bit of a skull talisman hanging off the one hand there with the Stormbolter attached. That looks great. We do have a skull on one knee pad and on both of the kind of... I forget the name of the armour that covers the hips, whatever that armour is, and a massive one in the chest, and one on his head, and two, presumably, on the axe. There is a lot of skull action going on here, which, I don't know, could maybe tone it down a little bit. I think you could ditch a couple of them and he would still look suitably awesome. I have to admit I would prefer to see a helmet on the guy, but I accept that typically speaking with librarians, you don't tend to see that all too often. It tends to be more of a bare head job. So, you know, I get why that is. Just personal preference. This is a good looking lad. The proportions are they just work so much better. There's so much more like chunk and girth and width to him. And he doesn't look quite as it doesn't look quite as much as though his neck is broken, which is quite a big thing. That's quite a big thing. I feel like the arms are more... The shoulders are still high, right? The pauldrons are still super high on the model. They still go well above the head. But, when you actually look where his arm is in relation to his head, they're still, like, uncomfortably high, but not anatomically impossibly high. Which is, I think that's a significant difference. That's a nice change. That's a good change, that. I think the arms being quite high up in comparison to their head is something of a classic Terminator look at this point. Something that I'm not necessarily a particular fan of specifically, but something that I've grown used to over the years. This definitely feels like the proportion is just that much better. Not just in the legs, which are longer and have like a better stature to them, but also the upper body just feels kind of better laid out. I need to go back and look at the new Terminators they showed off as well, because I'm pretty sure it would have been the same thing, but I just didn't pick up on it. But because I'm focused on this one dude, really looking at this lad, it's just struck me that, yeah, he looks like he'd be more comfortable in that armour. than any of the previous ones in the old Terminator armour. Got some nice alternate angles as well. I'm liking the big book that's been attached to the back of the armour there. I love a big book on a model. There's not enough models with big books on them. There needs to be more. They've very deliberately gone for quite a bright colour scheme on the cables. They've gone for that like really vivid yellow and red, which makes it look very old school. Personally, not the colour scheme that I'd go for necessarily, but you know what? It's giving me kind of like there was an army that I played against like when I first started playing 40k. But the guy was really nice, and he did do a good job painting, but holy crap, his ability to make yellow stand out was second to none. It was fluorescent. Every single thing he painted yellow, you could see from the other side of the room. You could just immediately pick up on a model as soon as it was brought out of a box, because the light reflected off it, and everything was given like a warm golden glow. This is just giving me flashbacks to that. His Ultramarines army looked super weird because it was really nicely painted and the blue was nice, but you couldn't focus on it. The eye was just drawn to the neon yellow. No idea how he pulled it off, but now I'm just getting waves of nostalgia looking at the yellow cables, and they're not even that bright. To be fair, they're bright, but they're not offensively bright. Oh, another skull on the shoulder. I mean, fair enough. Fair enough on that one. Yeah, and actually on the gauntlet as well. So yeah, I think there's a good number of skulls. Maybe a touch too many skulls, but 10 out of 10 for enthusiasm. There's the lad himself from the trailer. I have to say, I reckon the model looks better. That is a quality model. Hopefully soon we'll get to see what killed him, because he didn't last very long in the trailer. He got absolutely wrecked. So I'm looking forward to seeing what takes him out. Anyway, regardless of how Terminator's perform in 10th, even if it's terrible, I'm going to have a lot of them, because I want them. I love them. They've made them bigger, they've made them better, they've made them correctly proportioned, and I cannot say no. Quality work, quality lad. As you can probably tell from the start of the video, things are going to be a bit sporadic for a few weeks, but you know what, we're going to try and pile through, and even if I have to record super late at night, which I am currently, we will get videos out. Whether you like it or not, you're going to be subjected to inane ramblings, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, apart from not watch, but I mean, you wouldn't want to do that. You don't want to just leave me by myself, just talking to no one. Then I would look properly mental. I already look mental enough, but it would be even worse if you just left me here by myself. So with that in mind, let me know what you think of this lad in the comments down below. Does he tickle your fancy or not? Let me know what you think. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things. Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click it if you don't want to. Oh, patrons, you want to look out. There's going to be something special dropping later this week. We're trying something new, and you're going to be the first ones to hear about it. So just throwing it out there. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, which you can use to support the channel if you'd like. I leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.